Desi has to put his own stamp on it though. He can't just take Jim's team and say, oh well look, you're just like you're one in All Ireland on his work. So Conor McHugh, Colin Baskell could be starting. Do you know what I mean? Lads that he won All Ireland under 21s with. Like McHugh is brilliant under him for Nafina. Like, who do you push out? Will they be disgruntled? Will they go, well this is it? It's not an easy job coming in after Jim Gavin, who won 5 in a row.
Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAA Hour Football Show.
The GAA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Happy New Year, Conan and Ger. It's great to be back. Did you have a good Christmas?
Great Christmas. I've wintered well.
You're looking very fit, Ger. You must have gone easy on the festivities. Conan, you're always fit. You can't fatten a thoroughbred. You're just a racehorse, and that's it. Yeah. You don't ever let your body kind of go.
My body's a temple. My body just rejects bad food when I put it in.
Right. Okay. Well, we're 2 days away from All Ireland semi-finals, right? So we are. On Saturday, we have Ballyboden versus Kilcoo, and that is in Breffni Park, Kingspan Breffni Park. And we have Corofin versus Nemo Rangers in Ennis. So I don't know, Ger, you've experienced this on many's an occasion. I've experienced it once myself. Usually it's in February and you have a whole bloody 10, 12 weeks to punch in. Now these poor fellas couldn't enjoy the Christmas socially, couldn't enjoy New Year's socially. They have an All-Ireland semi-final to look forward to, so they won't complain. We'll complain for them. It's not fair.
It is a funny one, and look, I suppose they're trying to sort out this perennial fixture problem that exists across the different inter-county club and college stakeholders. But as a club, you're delighted to be in an All-Ireland club semi-final. Yeah. If it's on Christmas Day, you're going to play it. Exactly. It's a great opportunity. It's a great privilege to make it that far. 3 of the clubs involved have been there before. And Kilcoo will be looking to get over the line, get into an All-Ireland club final and see can they get that first All-Ireland club title. But it's just about kind of minding yourself over the Christmas period. Not going too crazy.
They're actually all in the same boat. You mentioned 3 of them have been here before, but that's useless to them because the 12-week thing, which I'm sure Corofin have ironed this out and have it down to a T, will give them 3 weeks off, we'll get them back in. And now it's like it's torn up. Kilcoo are in the same position as the others. Yeah,
you got to work backwards. So when you get your the date of your fixture, you just work backwards. So obviously the provincial finals were probably 6-7 weeks ago at this stage.
Oh, well, less. Ballyboden was only 2 weeks ago. Then Kilcoo probably a week before. Probably only 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So it's a lot tighter than in comparison.
Much tighter.
To the previous year. So Christmas Day, most fellas are probably doing some sort of running to keep the body ticking over.
We were going mad about Christmas Day training here for inter-county teams, but there is an excuse to get them together on a Christmas Day or Stephen's. Jesus, like you have an All-Ireland semi-final on the 4th. You have to. You give them a pass for this. And it has to be pointed out, it's only this year that the semi-finals are on the 4th. Next year they're going to be moved back. The semi-finals will be moved into December, and the final will be on the final will be on the same date, the 16th. You'll still have to mind yourself over Christmas, but not probably to the same extent.
There's not a lot of sympathy out there though for them. Like, amongst club players, it's just like, all Ireland semi-final. Boo! I know. I'd take a Christmas off to do that, and maybe it is a bit different for Corofin here, like, for God's sake, another All-Ireland semi-final. But for everybody else, it would just be like they would definitely sacrifice one Christmas to reach that level.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, and we've mentioned this, no player is going to complain about this, because although I think TJ Reid complained a little bit about it, now he's been in enough of them to go, here, this is silly. Like, it's not as much a novelty. I think he's 3 All-Ireland clubs, could even be 4. So, like, I mean, at his stage of his career, he's able to complain about it. There's no one from Kilcoo will be saying this is a joke, or Ballyboden even as well, who've only been there once before.
It's probably retrospectively, as you finish as a player, and TJ, I know he's been around the block a long time, still playing, obviously performing extremely well. If you put out any negative kind of comments in the build up to it, you don't want to be distracting the team's psychology going into a game. You want to stay focused on the task at hand. But I would imagine deep down most fellas are like, Janie Mac, it's Christmas time, you would like to switch off. There's a natural rhythm that exists in the body, doesn't it? Coming up to the middle of December, the silly season, and then you kind of switch off, have a few beers and eat whatever. It's
all that though, like it's your Christmas party and work. You might have to avoid. You might have to give. Avoid. It's all these things. All Christmas is for meeting up with friends that maybe come back from abroad, going meeting family coming back from abroad. they can't do any of that. It is very, very harsh. I don't care. Like, it's really, really harsh. Now, it has to be pointed out, it's only for this year. We know the solution here is to move everything into last year, start a new year, and the All-Ireland champions will then bloody enjoy your Christmas as champions and bring the cup around your village and on Santa's sleigh, or whatever you want to do.
No,
that's the way to do it.
And like, sure, during the summer, like the one we always use, the example for inter-county players is weddings. You know, they can't enjoy themselves at weddings.
Festivals.
Or go to them festivals.
They used to break my heart.
Yeah, whereas December is it's just a no-go area now if you're a club player in an All-Ireland semi-final. Like, you can't go out, you can't have your Christmas party. Yeah, it's just tough time, and you have to eat right the whole time as well.
Exactly. Okay, we won't complain about it too much longer. I wanted to ask you, Ger, the big news that broke before Christmas, not really that Jim Gavin resigned, because that's been talked to death, but Desi Farrell taking over. What do you think? He seems like the natural successor, with having known all these lads in 14 and 17, bringing them to under 21 All Ireland.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Wally. Desi is absolutely a natural successor. He's followed a similar career path, if you want to call it that, as Jim, in terms of underage success, but also at minor level then as well, winning an All-Ireland. I think they lost 2011 All-Ireland, come back and win.
They lost that one,
year. So he would know the fellas fairly intimately. Desi never played under him, but got to know him through his work in the GPA. He's a very thorough individual. He's all about the player, getting the best out of the individual.
Will he be facilitating the players like Jim did?
I would imagine he will be facilitating this. He definitely will. Look at more than any individual going into a new role. You do want to put your own slant on it. You want to kind of build on the success that has been achieved beforehand, but you don't want to be a copy and paste job. You want to bring your own personality to it. So,
but this is the thing about it. I was reading a piece from Conor McKeown in The Independent, and he was talking about Desi Farrell's autobiography. And in the autobiography, he spoke about the mistakes Mickey Whelan made in '96 when he came in after Pat O'Neill. And Mickey tried to put too much of his own stamp, and he started challenging John O'Leary, who was the captain, and he ruffled a few feathers that he didn't need to. So you'd imagine Desi won't do any of that if he's able to see the mistake Mickey potentially made.
And I actually, as a teenager, my parents got me John O'Leary's book for a Christmas box one year, and they got me Desi Farrell's book Tangled Up in Blue as a Christmas box one year, and I remember reading it, interesting stories, and then I always got to know Mickey for best, but he was a mentor, like nearly another father figure for me in many ways, between Dublin and club involvement. But Mickey's a very, very strong character. A lot of pretty much everything that is being done now and how Dublin are prepared, and elements of the style of play that they incorporate, that's actually what Mickey was doing back then, and he was doing it back in the 70s as well.
Right.
With the Dublin team, he had spent a lot of time over in the States. He was involved in high level soccer, different sports, athletics, and he was clever and smart enough to bring the best of all these different disciplines and see how we can make Gaelic games a better sport. So you can understand, in 1995 Dublin have won the All-Ireland for the first time since '83. Fellas are being put up on a pedestal like gods, and we've all been there. You're getting the pats in the back playing for your county team, and a new guy comes in with his new ideas, and it's not running laps of the pitch, or it's not this particular training that they were doing. They're Pat O'Neill, the manager, 95.
Yeah,
it's actually more sport specific, sports science type training. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Like,
we're not fit.
We're not fit yet, because they haven't felt knackered, they're not coughing their
they're not puking,
the whole time. So, but that was probably a learning, I would imagine, for Mickey, in how to deal with individuals and how to bring a group along, particularly when you're a new guy coming in, that you can't, even though you can see things happen that I don't really like that part of it, but I'll have to leave that bit go in order to bring the guys with me, and you gradually introduce a couple of new ideas and principles over the course of a couple of seasons.
But he like, Desi has to put his own stamp on it though. He can't just take Jim's team and say, oh well, look, you're just like, you're winning All Ireland on his work. So Conor McHugh, Colin Baskell could be starting, do you know what I mean? Lads that he won All Ireland under 21s with, like McHugh was brilliant under him for Nafina. Like, who do you push out? Will they be disgruntled? Will they go, well, this is it? It's not an easy job coming after Jim Gavin, who won 5 in a row. Like, I don't envy Desi in a way. Only Desi could probably have succeeded him, or Pat Gilroy, fellas who, I would even say Pat would have been better than Desi, in that if a few results go wrong for Desi, be like, this lad's never managed a senior. Like, at least Pat won an All Ireland and is a very confident, successful man.
That was the hopes. It was a non-dub. I was hoping that Desi would be coming and trying to just tear up the script and be like, no, we're doing it my way now. Like, we're going to win better. Sort of. I was thinking about when Brian Clough went into Leeds and took over Don Revy. It's like, forget about what you did before. This is a better way of doing it. But if he was smart, like if he did the exact same thing this year, they'll win an All-Ireland, and it'll be his first one. And like, you wouldn't really change the team. You would keep everything the same. The team were really happy under Jim Gavin. And it sounds like, from what Ger's saying, like it sounds like that's sort of what he is going to do. He's going to come in with a natural progression.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I would like to see him, throw a few more rolls of the dice, just trying to sort of change things a little bit and make them a bit more vulnerable. I don't know if he will though.
Yeah, well, I think he will. Probably, it's not like Dublin are lacking players. If he wants to bring them in, do you know, that kind of way. So, like, we'll watch this space.
And it's probably worth noting that I would say there's a difference. What would you call it? The Dublin players in January 1996 in comparison to the Dublin players in January 2020, they're a different group.
Yeah,
I think much more humble, much more grounded individuals, and they'll see the bigger picture. And if X player is being pushed out and he's at the winning his 6 or 7 All-Irelands and he's been starting the last couple of years in the gym, and he's not performing, and it's for the greater good of the team, he won't be happy, but he had to take on the chin or try to
see, that's true, but that's under Jim Gavin. That's the reaction under him. Like the respect they had for him, would that be the reaction under someone else? That's the question. We don't know. Like, you'd imagine it will be, but
because Desi has coached so many of these fellas now, from minor to under 20, 21, I think it will be. But your point is extremely valid, fully at the same time. But we'll know in a few months.
Will Desi get away with bringing Jim McConnelly in mid-season?
Yeah,
probably not.
Well,
Jim Gavin would.
Would Desi not pick Bernard Brogan in the 26 for an All-Ireland final in his very first All-Ireland final, and then Bernard personally meet him to shake his hand when he was retiring? Like, for me, that was incredible. I'd be like, there's no way I'm even ringing that lad. Like, he dogged me. And Bernard said on this show, he said, well, the respect I had for all the time we were together, rather than just the last year. But anyways, if you could do a full show on this. Tommy Conroy, your ex-manager, he was thrown in the mix. Was this? We were saying it might be just Paddy Power doing a stunt. Was he ever in the mix? Did you hear anything, Ger?
I think it could have been Paddy Power maybe doing a stunt. At the same time, I got excited about it, having had Tommy for 5-6 years in the club. Tommy, great fella, super manager, and he would have been another great appointment. You'd probably be more nervous about it in comparison to someone like Desi or was Pat to go back in for the reasons already discussed. But Tommy could have been an exciting figure going in. But from what I gather, I think it was Paddy Power having a bit of fun. Yeah, no, I think maybe it was. Come here, clubs. We mentioned clubs like Nemo, Corofin, just coming back, year after year, and Corofin especially. So when Corofin appeared on the scene for me first was in an All-Ireland semi-final against G, and you were after winning the All-Ireland the year before. You came back, won a really difficult Dublin Championship, then won a Leinster, which I think you beat Portlaoise in the final that year. Maybe it wasn't. And then you have to play Corofin. Now, I didn't know anything about Corofin at the time. Their team is very, very similar to the one it is now, especially their forward line. I think their whole forward line, bar wing forward, young Dylan Wall has come in, and Delaney was wing forward back then. Did you know much about them at the time? Did you know how good they were? Lundy got 4 from play that day. Ian Burke got 4 from play that day. Liam Silk, Mark Connolly. And I couldn't believe they beat you. Because I didn't know. If I knew then what I know now, you'd be a millionaire. We did our homework. We got a couple of videos of their previous games, and due diligence was certainly carried out, and we knew the fellas by name. We knew their faces without having actually played against them before. When it came to the game itself, we were quite flat. The structured defence that we kind of had, not getting sucked out of positions, they exposed us really well. They knew we weren't going to necessarily track them all over the field, so they dropped in and out of these little pockets, but they were far hungrier. They were the better team. They play a lovely style of kick pass and football, which they're still playing. They haven't moved away from it too much, but the
hunger's a big thing though, isn't
massive,
it? New kid on the block. And then Dr. Crooks did it to them down in Limerick another year when they were on, it's the time to get them in that semi-final. Maybe Slough-Neil did it to you another year, but then how difficult is it to win in All-Ireland and go through that whole process again without ever changing, getting a break or getting any downtime?
Well, I remember after the 2014 Club All-Irelands, I think it was a bank holiday Monday, maybe Patrick's Day that year, and the following Sunday we had a league game. I think it was against Ballyboden, and the rules in Dublin, you can only move the league game within 7 days of the original fixture, and it's a good rule because it gets all the games played in time. But that aside, we had to tog out, or most of tried to tog out the following Sunday against the Ballyboden team, having been out for the previous week as you do. But it's just crazy. And then we all have friends in America or friends from England, and you might be chatting to them or they're coming over, and you're explaining the GAA season to them, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. Why did you not? I don't know.
I don't know who it's harder on, the actual club players or the county players. Because if you're making an All-Ireland final, both don't get a break. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
It's the up-and-coming club guy who's looking to get a couple of runs in your Bourne Cup or the equivalent in the other provinces to try and get put their name in the hat.
He stays with the club, yeah.
He stays with the club, and then in my situation, I ended up with 3 sports-related surgeries because between I think 2012 and 2016, 17, we got to 5 club championships in a row, losing 1 to Ballyboden, and they obviously went down to win the All-Ireland that year. And then we obviously had great runs with Dublin as well. So it took a toll on my body. I don't know how Dermot hasn't broken down yet. He's just a jam bag in terms of physiology.
Physiology I think is on.
It's a big part of it. Yeah.
Definitely. And then you played Nemo in 07.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten, I was looking through the teams, and Pat Gilroy, we played G in the semi-final. Gilroy didn't start that day. I think he started for the final against the Westmeath champions, and he played well. I think he set up a couple of scores, and he stayed on the team then till the final. So Pat Gilroy stayed going until 07 with the club.
Past that going, so we the county final that year, I think we bet St. Bridget's of Blanchetown in the final, and Pat was only a sub. And he started kind of turning up the train more frequently, like, you know. so Pat was carrying
the final.
Pat was carrying a bit of a belly. So I shared the story, yeah. So it's and he lives about a 5-minute drive from St. Vincent's Clubhouse. So he was putting his bike. He was telling Mickey Whelan, who was manager, that I'll get fit. I'll cycle up the train and everything. Pat's a 37-year-old wealthy businessman. And he's cycling up from the house like the young lads trying to get fit. But he was seen putting his bike in the back of his nice X5 or wherever he had, driving up to the entrance of Vincent's, taking the bike out and cycling the 200 metres in the road, like, you know. But Pat was a great guy.
Splash some water in his face.
Splash some water in his face, you know. But
that's brilliant.
But he was effective for you then when he started, didn't he? Like, scores came off him, you know.
Scores came off him. We had a great semi-final against Cross McGlen, who had been competing in probably 3 or 4 All-Ireland club finals in a row, and now they haven't done the 3 in a row. They certainly won 2, lost 1, and I think maybe won a third. But Pat was a big target man with a guy, Brian Maloney from Mayo, corner forward. He actually won an intermediate Connacht championship with his home club Park there recently. And Mossy Quinn was in the other corner. And I think we got 2 great goals. Actually, it was in Park Tolchin in Navan, the semi-final against Cross McGlen.
Right.
We took great confidence from that, and we just still struggled over the line against Nemo Rangers, who were fancy going into that final.
You were hammering Nemo the whole way through the game, and then almost let it slip. They got a run on you. I think it was 6 points in 5 minutes, or 5 points in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're coasting, and now you're in a bloody game.
Yeah. And Joe McQuillan was refereeing that day. He only played 1 minute of extra time. It was only my dad reminded me this after the 2011 Inter-County All-Ireland final. He played 1 minute of extra time against Nemo, which we won, and that broke us through the glass ceiling. And then 2011 with Dublin, Joe McQuillan was reffing, and he only played 1 minute of extra time.
Dublin Joe, right?
Yeah, Dublin Joe, yeah. Better than your man Dublin Jimmy, anyway.
All right, well, let's have a look ahead to these 2 matches, lads, because, to be honest with you, they're both really attractive, and they're both on TG Cahir. Corofin Nemo's the first one. At 1:30, and then Ballyboden Kilcoo is the second one at 3:30. So we're going to start with Ballyboden and Kilcoo because it's more of a novel pairing. And based on the Ulster final, what Ballyboden are going to have to do, they're going to have to stop the ball going into Conor Laverty, because for a small little man, like we were saying on the show here, Ger, he throws it around almost like Ian Burke. You know what I mean? He's just interested in getting on ball and waiting for runners. And Kilcoo, they have players like Eugene Brannigan and Ryan Johnson who have the engines to be back defending, but when that diagonal ball goes to Laverty, they're running off him. Do you know what I mean? So you'd imagine Ballyboden are going to have to put somebody standing in front of Laverty.
Well, and Conor, I've played against him with Down. Never got to play against with the club, and I know him through working the third level
in Trinity, yeah.
So he's a great guy. I don't know how he's still doing it. I think he's 3 or 4 young boys as well, and he's still playing at that level. And
he's over the Kilcoo minors too.
And I think she's there winning everything.
They won. I think they won the Ulster. Yeah.
Yeah. So but Conor, he obviously has a lot of experience. His kind of his height and his build makes him difficult to actually tackle. Because when he has the ball in his hand, it's nearly a case of
you're giving away a free.
You're giving away a free. So if I can just not let him get in the first place, but he is clever. The ball in is good to him in the previous games, and again he is patient enough. When you mentioned the likes of Brannigan and Johnson, strong runners coming off the shoulder, but what they do have from watching the Ulster final against Dave Connell, they understand what they're trying to do. They did most of their damage in the first half in that Ulster final, and again probably a bit of nerves. They kind of hung on because I know they were trying to get over that line as well for the last number of years. But I don't know, they maybe scored 2 or 3 points maybe in the second half in total. But again, Laverty was a big part of everything that was good about him.
He was. He was the main man. And like, I mean, the beautiful thing about having a target man there, it doesn't have to be a big man. There's clarity about your game plan. You can't, and you see Mayo with Moran, like everything will go through. Moran will show, and we'll go through him and we'll run off him. And it's kind of old school tactics in a way, Ger, isn't it? Like maybe in the noughties, that was the way wing forwards kind of played. They waited for the ball to go in and time the run off him. The only thing is, it's predictable. And you'd imagine Ballyboden know what makes them tick. And if Conor Laverty stopped, where's, you know what I mean? Jerome Johnson's not the type of forward who's going to win and throw it off to lads. You know, I like it. I really like it. But I do think that it probably can be defended against because it works so well in the Ulster final.
It's nearly like an Achilles heel though for Ballyboden, because they're trying to press, like, and they've got a big strong middle third and they're trying to push up on things and turn the ball over. That's the thing.
They probably can't leave a full-time sweeper in front of him because that'll mess up their press. And Ballyboden are all about the press, so that will be interesting. Yeah, unless you get a Ger Brennan and just let him drop off his man, press a bit. Press
when you have to.
You know what you're doing. Just
But I'm dropping back. You're not catching me out.
And it is an interesting dynamic, because I was thinking, geez, Kilcoo might struggle like Darrell Brannigan, who was so good the last day. You know, he might not get that running game as easy. But then the ball's going to be into Conor Laverty, so I think Kilcoo can play it either way. So if Ballyboden drop off, then they can run at them, and if they push up, then they can kick it. So it's a tough one for them to face it. Like, I don't know, I think that's going to be on. If you look at Conor McHugh against Nafina, had a field day against them. And it's just, it's something that they're giving teams because they think they're getting.
Conor McHugh versus Ballyboden, Darrell Brannigan versus Darren O'Reilly is going to be some matchup, because Darren O'Reilly is a player I like for Ballyboden. He's like all action, he's got a great engine, and I think he's a very underrated player for them because he gets through so much work. And we know how good Darrell Brannigan looked a sensation in the Ulster final, so the two of them going up against each other will be worth watching.
No, certainly two honest individuals, and again, I obviously know Darren that bit better playing with Ballyboden, and he absolutely is underrated. Playing against Bowden over the years, he's someone that we actually do talk about because he picks up an awful lot of ball, an awful lot of what's good about Bowden. It does go through him, and he's fit enough to get up and down the wing. Darrell Brannigan, again, hugely impressive. He's a strong runner trying to break that first line defence, as Conan said. Bowden will try to squeeze him in the middle, put that high press on, and if Brannigan from wing back and break that first line of defence, get him behind the Ballyboden.
There's clear field,
There's clear field, which is what Nafina did really, really well. And the lack of maybe, what would you call it, demonstration of the dark arts that Bowden had and Nafina didn't, is what got Bowden over the line in that particular game. And I think Bowden will have that then as well. Like we mentioned Eugene Brannigan and Ryan Johnson. I know Bobbit is mentioned the last team, but I know Kieran Kennedy and Rob McDade quite well. Those guys will be doing an awful lot of marking off the ball, so to speak, and not allowing those guys to get in over their heads and be strong runners off the likes of Lafferty. So
they have a very good defence, Ballyboden, without having superstars in it, don't they? Like they're tough, dogged. They're a tough team. You would respect them the way they play, don't you? They're hard. They're hardy kind of individuals for Southsiders, right?
Yeah, hardy for Southsiders. Yeah, but they're big. Like, and Cunning's played against themselves. Scaries. Like they're very, very strong. They're very, very physical guys. Yeah. They're all at least kind of 6 foot really, and they're all well built. You're not going to bully them. You're not going to win too many physical counters. So it's about moving the ball quick, actually avoiding the contact, and let the ball kind of do the work. And the less time you bring the ball into contact against them, the more opportunity you will have. They're slow to start, Ballyboden, in games, but they finish quite strong. Yeah. And if you look at Kilcoo now, some of their previous down championship games and the preliminary Ulster Club Championship games, the scoring was woeful, and it was two parked buses in kind of most of the games. But if Kilcoo can start well, like they did in the Ulster final, Bowden are slow to go to the Brox based on the previous games I've seen them play in, and the Dublin Championship included in that. But at the same time, Kilcoo, they were holding on for dear life in the Ulster final, just about got over the line. Well deserved, in fairness to them, but Bowden do finish strong, and that's when the Basquels certainly come into their own.
I think it will be a good game, right? Because Ballyboden will probably let Kilcoo play Derry Gonley didn't let Kilcoo play at all. It was a horrible game to watch. But I think Ballyboden probably will take them on, in a more offensive game. Look, every team get players behind the ball when they can, but I don't think they'll be obsessed with it. Neither team are obsessed with it. What about the Baskells then? Conal Keeney has broke his way back into the team as well, and he was good in the Leinster final. I don't think Conal would be much of a fan of the way football's gone, where every time you get the ball you can't do something. Sometimes you just have to throw it off. You know what I mean? Let's say that frustrates him. But he scored 2 really good points in the final. Baskells were quieter against Éireog, but they were getting men behind the ball. It was a poxy day for football. Up front, where do you think Baskells get all the headlines, I suppose?
Well, they do. Well, I suppose you mentioned Conal Keeney coming back in it as well. He's so much experience. I think Keeney's about 36, 37, and to have that hunger still at that age.
Well, he's like Dermot Connolly. He's a physical freak
freak,
isn't he?
Yeah, and he's just able to kind of to do it, and he's physically strong. See, I suppose Keeney over the years would have been corner forward with Dublin, playing in decent service in Croke Park. You're winning ball, diagonal ball, and you're pushing off hard ground to get past the guy. That's not going to be the case in the next couple of days with the wet conditions that we have there. So it is about being patient and trying to drag defences around and getting your strike runners off. But if you look statistically speaking, Collie Basquel does nearly all of his scoring in the latter stages of a game, because defenders who've done decent jobs on him, just they fatigue mentally and physically, and they start taking their eye off the ball, so to speak, literally and figuratively. And then Collie just breaks through, and he's a very talented individual. He gets wrapped up a bit at inter-county level. That's his own challenge. I'm sure he will get a couple of runs.
Is it because he takes his man on too much, and at inter-county level they're able for that?
Yes.
He needs to develop a little bit more.
He has to evolve a bit, which he's doing a bit more with the club, in fairness. He's given and he's going, and his movement is very good, and he's extremely fit too as well, which gets him over the line in those last 10 minutes of a game when a lot of his damage is done. But himself and his brother and Vern's Ross McGarry, another guy in UCD too, he was
very poor in the final now. Éireog had a fell on him, the wing back Lowry, and he did a great job on him. He was out in front of him all the time now, but McGarry was very good in the county final.
Yeah, he was,
so it'd be interesting. So the betting on this with Paddy Power, lads, is Ballyboden are 1-2 favourites. I don't see where Paddy Power are getting that. Now, they don't often get it wrong. Kilcoo are 2-1 outsiders. I see this being a good game. I do think Ballyboden are favourites, but they're not. The Kilcoo aren't 2-1 outsiders, surely, are they?
But Paddy Power had Tommy Conroy as 1-2 favourite as well for the Dublin job. I don't like Collie Basquill is the interesting one. Like, he's such a weapon at centre forward, and because he's playing centre forward and taking his man on, it throws the other team off. Like, you want your centre back to have that space to be able to hold everything and sort of knit everything together, but you have to follow Basquill because he'll destroy you otherwise. I think you're right, they're favourites. I don't think they're odds on favourites, and I'm sort of going to go with Kilcoo just because they come through such a tough run of 3 games there. Like, they beat Marafel, to beat Derry Gonley.
We know Ulster at inter-county and club level is overrated though, right?
No, I know, but in fairness as well, 3 defensive games that they're going to get a bit more problems sort of put to them with Ballyboden. But they've only conceded 9 points in each of those 3 games in Ulster. 2 goals against Niamh Conall, right enough, but 2 dirty high balls in.
I'm joking there, by the way. Slough-Nail, Crossmaglen, all those brilliant clubs coming from Ulster, inter-county. I'm not
defending them.
I'm not rowing back on that one. So who do you fancy then? Who do you think's going to win this? You're going to go for Kilcoo, are you?
Kilcoo, yeah.
I just don't think there's going to be anything in this at all. I think if you wanted a bit of value, you would go with Kilcoo at 2-1. There's no value in Ballyboden at putting on a tenner to win a fiver.
I suppose I'm probably torn in my prediction here, and with Ballyboden, I think they are such slow starters, and that they have been here before. Those 2 things raise the question: will they be hungry enough to get over the line against a Kilcoo who have given everything over the last number of years and won maybe 10, 11 down championships over the last maybe 15 years? Who are ridiculously hungry to get into an All-Ireland final. On Kilcoo's side, I don't think they have faced an attacking, an offensive outfit so far this season. And Bowden will, as Conan has mentioned, we've mentioned that they will put a bit of a press on. They will try to turn them over, play good offensive football, and try to take their men on. So it'd be interesting to see how Kilcoo will react to that. Having played and lost against Slough-Nail, what they're very good at, northern teams, they can kind of suck you into their style of football. They can kind of bog you down, and if psychologically you get caught up in that and lose sight of what you're specific role is in the team, or what they're trying to do game tactically. I think that's something that Kilcoo should be able to do. I actually don't know, but I'm gonna go with Bowden by maybe a point, but it's hard to call this one now.
No, it definitely is. Right, we'll talk about the second one. I'm just going to go slightly favouring Bally. Jeez, is it? I'll go a draw. That's the best thing to do, Ger, when you can't figure out. Let's just.
I didn't know we could pick a draw. Sorry,
Conan often does it. He even puts them in accumulators, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Never comes off.
Right, Corofin, Nemo. Like on paper, this like two historical giants of the game. I'm not sure Nemo are good enough. Like the last time they played was in Croke Park, which Corofin are just sensational in Croke Park. It was 2-19 to 10 points. That was only 2 years ago, right? So like, I mean, that was just a humiliation for Nemo. So they will have motivation. They're back again. They won't lack confidence because they're Nemo Rangers. They've won bloody 17. They've won 17 Munster titles. I think they have 10. Is it 10 All Irelands?
I
no, about 7. Maybe the same as Crossmaglen.
Yeah,
same as Crossmaglen. Corofin are 2-5 favourites. Nemo are 5-2 outsiders. The question here is, Corofin kind of struggle against defensive teams. What good team doesn't? They usually do, especially at this time of the year, Ger. It's very, very hard to break them down. It's very hard to get away from someone. It's very easy to double up on someone because fast players aren't as fast. And the last two county finals in Galway, Mount Bellew, Mylock have brought them to a replay, and Tuam brought them to a replay this year. Moorfield nearly beat them in Tullamore, and Moorfield, no disrespect to them, wouldn't be like at Corofin's level. So would Nemo go defensive against them? That wouldn't be in their DNA because they're Nemo Rangers. So I think Nemo will allow Corofin play football, and sure, that's a recipe for disaster.
You can't see Corofin going away from the football philosophy that they have. They're going to try to play the same way, and they'll have faith and they'll have belief in it. The one thing for me going against Corofin is that they have, and again, they are winning these games, they're winning these replays, but they're just struggling over the line, getting winning games by a couple of points. Whereas the last couple of seasons they were hockeying a lot of teams on the way to their club final success. Now, having hammered Nemo Rangers, and remember in watching that game, you actually felt bad for the Nemo Rangers fellas. Like most of those fellas are still involved.
But they hammered Slough-Nail as well. They hammer Kilmacud Crokes. They're this now in Croke Park. They're a different proposition than a boggy pitch down in Ennis.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Nemo, Corofin have probably gotten the favourable draw, I would say, based on where they're at the moment. That there isn't a whole lot more in them. That question of hunger again comes into play. We've seen it with the Hurling Club Championship last year with Coola, who are trying to go for a 3 in a row. Like, it's an extremely difficult proposition to keep club guys going like that. But again, do Nemo have the quality in comparison to what probably Bowden and for me Kilcoo would have? I don't think they have the same quality. Then again, you're up against it. You're embarrassed the last day. You're going to come out fighting like a dog.
They'll come out fighting like a dog,
and that can change things. And again, the weather in the next couple of days, if it's bad, that'll stand in Nemo's favour. Yeah, no, it definitely will, and they want to turn it into a battle, and like they do have quality, like Luke Connolly, they have Kerrigan, they have Mark Cronin, who wasn't there 2 years ago in the final in Croke Park. He was with the Cork under-21s corner forward, and Barry O'Driscoll's a big kind of effective burly full forward in your Pat Gilroy mould. You know, like they can hurt teams, and I think like it was the semi-final the year they got to the final. They beat Slough-Nail in Portlaoise, who were very fancied at the time. Slough-Nail were going to come back, you know, and get back into the final. I wouldn't rule Nemo completely out of it, you know, because the year Dr. Crokes beat Corofin, I didn't give them a chance down in the Gaelic grounds against Corofin. You know, it is like Ger said, they're going for 3 in a row. This is unprecedented.
Yeah, I like the semi-final angle that you're coming at as well, because Corofin, I think if they're playing Nemo in Croke Park, it's just forget about it. It's game over. I
think Corofin versus Ballyboden in the final is the one you want to see, because Ballyboden destroyed Castlebar Mitchells in Croke. They're a Croke, maybe potentially a Croke Park team too. You know, that could be a great final.
Is it hard for Nemo to come out and fight like a dog though, when they haven't had to fight like a dog yet? They had a non-event against Austin Stacks, and then a handy one against Clonmel.
They had a big scare against the Limerick champions. Actually, they only beat them by.
Jesus, I forgot about that one. I was thinking they've had 2 games to get through here. All right, we'll just let's scratch that off.
Yeah, but I know what you mean though. Like, I mean, I take your point.
Yeah, and they haven't had to sort of go to the well and just I don't know, like just sort of face going out, like, you know, and having to do something different and like scrap for every like little inch as underdogs. Now they're coming up against Corofin is what they have to do. Yeah, I just don't know if they're capable of doing it, especially if they're going to be all guns blazing attack.
Yeah, one place Corofin, because when you think about Corofin, you think about the Farrahers, you think about Ian Burke, you think about Lundy. Like Lundy the year they beat G in the semi-final, he played against Slough-Nail. He was unmarkable in the final. I think he got man of the match against G in the semi and then man of the match in the final, and he was captain. He's not really their main man now. It's more Ian Burke and the Farrahers. Gary Syce, unbelievable club player, what he's done. But their midfield, Dottie Burke and Ronan Steed, like that's probably the most underrated. They are machines. They're two machines.
And that was the midfield against those a couple of years
Still,
ago.
from midfield up, I don't think they've changed in the last 5 years.
Very little changes there. And again, with Lundy maybe not doing as much damage as the previous seasons, they've so much quality in their forward line that other guys are stepping up, and probably Liam Silk from corner back again. Liam, another UCD guy I know well, like he's popping up, kicking a couple of outrageous goals, drifting in behind the pack defences. And
what's his best position?
Oh, that's a good question. I think as a corner back coming out the field,
like a Philly McMahon role,
yeah,
against the defensive team.
Yeah,
corner back.
Yeah, he's very clever, Liam, and he kind of knows when to go, and he's good at reading the play, and he knows when to fill in a hole or cover for someone. But he's just a well-rounded player, a bit like Darren O'Reilly, probably with Ballyboden. He goes about his business nice and quietly.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, you're looking at who had a decent game. You're like, geez, your man had a great game. Liam Silk is and Darren as well is getting a couple of goals as well by sneaking in behind the fences. You know.
So could he be wing forward then and just play that role?
Could do that kind of ghosting around the field. Because when he came on the scene first, he marked Dermot Connolly in that semi-final, and I was thinking this lad's is a man marker. It took me a while to realise here he's not actually.
He can play football.
He can play as a footballer. He's more of a footballer than a man marker.
Yeah, no, he's a well-rounded individual, and it's give him a task, and he'll go out to carry it through as best he can. Again, it's hard to the best thing going for Nemo. Well, there's two things going for them: the quality of the pitch in terms of the wet weather, and the fact he got a hiding a couple of seasons ago. That, you know, as an individual, we've all gotten hidings against teams. You're playing the next season. You're saying, well, fact this, it's not going to happen again.
And what drives me mad is when players are interviewed and say, well, revenge, really, we're not thinking of revenge. Of course you're bloody thinking of revenge. That's the whole motivation. What are Corofin going to be saying? They're going to be saying in the dressing room, lads, you have to be careful now because these lads are wounded and we have to get to their level. And I've heard when you're playing with Portlaoise, especially in the Laois Championship, you're hearing these, let's match there, and you're hearing it, but the ball's thrown in and they're like, geez, these lads are fairly hungry now. You know, it's hard to get to that pitch without that natural motivation.
That doesn't get you to the pitch either, saying that those boys are really up for it. Look, they're going to be mad for it. They're going to hit you. They're going to, like, you know.
It's not the same, no.
What are we going to do? It's just like telling you what the other team's going to do. Like.
A lot of, when you're the better team, and you know, Ger, the speeches are more like, our football will win through, but we need to match their aggression. You know, and that makes sense. Simple, but you just, that's not really the kind of thing you want. You know, it doesn't get you going. Now,
there's different things motivate different guys, and there's elements of as a defensive unit, we're trying to hit X amount of tackles or whatever, or concede X amount of score with frees. So that's what we're going out to try to achieve. And those targets. When you're playing for Dublin, certainly during my years, I knew there's 2 or 3 fellas behind me ready to come in at the first slip. So that actually nearly drove me on most of the time, and the more than yourselves playing inter-county level. When you're playing the club, if you're established, it's a bit different. You're playing for the parish, you are playing for family members, and you have to draw some sort of inspiration from a higher being or a higher purpose while trying to achieve those the goals and targets you do set out. But it's the annual challenge, the sports psychology that probably comes into it. And it's about, as an individual, I guess the older you get, the more you realise what motivates you. And for me, the bit of revenge was a big thing for me. And then playing against Ballymun and the Fina, because they're right beside us in club championship. Great fellas,
the local rivalries,
but we're going to do what you have to do to try to get over the line. But so different things motivate different people. Corofin are playing a team they don't play too often. They bet them quite well the last day.
What can motivate them?
3 in a row.
That's probably what it is. Or even a reminder of the Dr. Croak's loss. Do you know, that kind of thing? I don't know, because they're going to have to try and lean on something. But maybe the 3 in a row is. But then again, teams always say, "Oh, we're not thinking of the 3 in a row." You know, that we're taking one game at a time. If you start looking for all these things. But anyways, it's hard to know. We'll get predictions here, lads. I'd say we'll probably all be going for Corofin here. It's hard to look past them, isn't it?
Yeah, Corofin for me.
Corofin.
Yeah, I'll go for Corofin as well. Right, listen, that's it for the football part of the show. We'll be back in a second with Cheddar. Cheddar, welcome back to the show. It's been a long time no see.
Thanks, Wally.
How is the Christmas and all now? You didn't eat too much turkey?
No, but I think I might have wintered well all right. But I think, Wally, I do summer well and winter well, to be honest with you. So the seasons don't make much difference to me.
Come here, since the last time I talked to you, you kept this all on the down low, by the way, Cheddar. The whole way through last year, you were going under the radar as James Stevens manager. You said nothing to no one, and all of a sudden you're in a county final against Ballyhill Shamrocks.
I knew I was going to get nailed at that at some stage, Wally. I was surprised that you didn't nail me on that earlier on, to be honest with you. Incidentally, my friend Seamus Dwyer and myself were probably working together in that. Seamus was probably offered more to James Stevens in 2019 maybe than I did. But yeah, look, I suppose I sort of took a year out before that. I was doing a bit of rooting around the house and that. And I went in with the Village in 2019. Look, they're an iconic club, a fantastic club, very, very well run club. Fantastic group of players. Having said that, we started off, I suppose, in April. The Kilkenny Championship is savagely competitive. We actually lost our first 2 games. It's a league championship down there. Incidentally, other counties could look at the way Kilkenny do their business in the sense of the way they run their competitions and that. But we got on a bit of a run after that, and I think we maybe won 5 or 6 matches in a row and sort of snuck into a county final. But we're just disappointed, didn't perform on the day, didn't do ourselves justice on the day, and didn't perform, and Shamrocks turned us over on the day. But I think there was a lot of work done. Very, very, very good club, obviously, very, very good panel of players. Great culture about hurling, but that's probably it's the same in every club in Kilkenny. There's some surprising things that you see in Kilkenny, and one of the things that you see is every club, even the smallest rural club, will have a panel of 40. And that'll be actually on the panel, on the programme on the day. It just tells you the strength and depth, and that's just 12 senior clubs. You'll see the very, very same thing in the Intermediate Championship and the Junior Championship. They'll have a phenomenal amount of players, and of course they'll have a huge high quality of players in all of them. So look, it doesn't come as a surprise, the success of Kilkenny County, when you see I suppose what's going on in the foundations of the game in the county and the way it's run. There's no surprise that they have the success at the top level. Yeah, no, they definitely do. You had Portlaoise supporters cheering for James Stevens. I was up at the league final with Laois and Westmeath, and I think you were after losing the first game, and there was Portlaoise lads, and they were all on the phones. Did James Stevens win today? They were waiting for the train. Actually, the day of the final, I think we had nearly a Laois supporters club there for the Village, and even on the day of the final. But anyway, we didn't give him enough to cheer about on that day, I suppose. Yeah, unfortunately, the match before he was obviously Tommy Walsh, his Tullerone. Like I was saying on the show, the way all the talk about Tullerone was, I swear they were in intermediate for 20 years. It was only 4 years, but they couldn't get back out of it, and there was some great scenes. Unusual for in a county not to have the minor before the senior. The intermediate was before the senior. Cheddar. Yeah, mind you, I've been at an awful lot of Kilkenny County finals over the years. If it wasn't a match in Laois or something like that, I'd probably end up in Kilkenny seeing the Kilkenny County final, and there's probably a couple of times, it's certainly been a good number of times when the minor final wasn't played before. It was played on a separate day and that. But anyway, on that day, the intermediate final was played before the senior final. Tullerone played Thomastown. There was I think there was 9,000 or 10,000 people at the final. Like, it was even a bigger crowd than normal, and probably some of that had to do with that, and some of that, you mentioned Tommy, some of that had to do with Tommy. He's an iconic player, even in Kilkenny, and that's some statement to make. He was actually playing full forward that day, and I know a lot of people went into Nolan Park just to see him that day, and I know a lot of people went from other counties just to see him. He has that effect on people that he's able to make people follow him as a player. But don't underestimate Tullerone, Wooly. I think Tullerone, I'm pretty sure they definitely have the record of the number of counties. Senior, I'm talking about. Oh,
they're way ahead,
yeah. Well, they're not that far ahead. I think there might be 19 or 20, and obviously Shamrocks have them in their sights now. Yeah. And that may very well be what's driving on Tullerone to go senior again in this year in 2020. But look, they have some team. They have Tommy Junior, the younger Tommy in the back line. and Tommy's brother and Shane and Mossy Keown. They're a serious team, serious spine. Or how about maybe 4 or 5 Kilkenny senior panellists on that team, and they're an intermediate team who had to fight tooth and nail to try and win that. And I'm just going back to that point that you were probably have another 12 teams at intermediate level in Kilkenny that are fighting tooth and nail just to go senior. And just think about that for a minute. Considering Tullaroan's history, and they had iconic players in their time. Lowry Marr was a Tullamore player. There was a Tullaroan player in his time, and yet they were fighting tooth and nail just to win an intermediate to go senior. The modesty of the club and the modesty of the players is something to behold in terms of the way they approach winning and what it means to them and what hurling means to them. And the winning of Tullaroan winning this year was a real case in point around that.
It definitely was. Tommy's he's a fan's favourite for anyone that doesn't love Tommy Walsh. There's something wrong with him as regards.
I'd say that Wooly, he's an incredible man and an infectious man. I don't know what he is. I'll be kind to him. He's in his mid-30s at the minute. He probably has more energy about him now than a whole pile of county senior players at the minute. And even if you were talking to him, you just get the impression that he's ready to pull on the boots and tear out into the field there and tear into somebody again. So he is. He's not just a fan's favourite for nothing. He plays and he lives the way you see him. His public persona is his sports persona, and vice versa, and that's why he's loved so much, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Kind of another big player that caught the eye, a few more talking points there that probably have caught the eye in the club championship since the last time I talked to you. Desi Hutchinson. What an exciting player this fella is. Now, I know Ballygunner lost the final to Borrisolee, and we'll talk a bit about Borrisolee obviously when we look forward to the games, but geez, he's really stood out, didn't he? In the games that are on television, just unbelievable movement, and is well able to finish then as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of points about that, Willie, really, I suppose. I think you'll see a lot more of that type of play, that type of mobility around the forward line where your score creation and your space creation is about, your mobility, and I suppose mobility before the ball comes in. And I would also say that probably the way Ballygunner play, suits Desi's way of playing as well. So he fits in perfectly into their team. And look, he's a very, very exciting player, and obviously got a great level of fitness and all of that. But he always was that. I just see a lot of media articles about him coming back from soccer. He always was, a very, very skilled player, and that this is just he just hasn't bought this off the shelf and turned out on the field.
He played under 16 for Waterford with a lot of those lads.
Yes, that's right. He'll be now stepping into county is very different, Wooly, obviously, and the I suppose focus on you, and particularly the type of player that he is, will be much tighter. He'll be marked much tighter, or the system will mark much tighter, or whatever. May not have as much space, and obviously we'll be playing against maybe more quality players than that. So he will be tested at county level, but nonetheless, he's a fantastic addition to Waterford that they didn't think they would have, I'd say, at the start of the year. Yeah,
he's going to be needed in Waterford because Liam Cahill has wasted no time anyways. He's dropped Noel O'Connor and he dropped Maurice Shanahan from his panel before he even started.
Yeah, no, I was surprised about that. Nolly was captain last year and was a nail-on cert for the team. But look, we don't know the issues there. There may be some issues there that we don't know about. I would be very surprised if Liam went in there and just made a judicious decision like that, just to drop two people to prove a point. There must have been something there that we don't know about, and we're just going to have to accept that. And it may very well be that just the players have gone soft and don't have that real anger and hunger anymore. It may be just something simple as that. But if the decision was made without something behind it and without something to back it up, then those type of things can come back and bite you after a while. If everybody accepts that this was justified and so on, even though the players themselves will be savagely disappointed about it, then I think it's okay. Things move on. And obviously, if Watford move on and win matches and you get momentum behind you, the whole show moves on with you then. But I suppose my just comment on it really is, that we don't know. There may be something in the background that we don't know about.
Yeah. What did you make of Paddy the Cock, the Borrisolee mascot, being thrown out in the field? Are you a fan of mascots? I thought it was great. Added a bit of theatre to the whole thing.
I know. I think it's great fun. Actually,
Surprised there's not more.
No,
mascots.
actually, would you credit it, Wooly? You should remember this. Laois had that. And,
I mentioned it on the show the following week. I forgot the Monday we were talking about it. I completely forgot about this until someone reminded me. It was in Parnell Park against Crossmaglen.
Yeah, I can.
There's a lad from Rosenallis, wasn't it? Used to throw in the cup.
There was a chap from out near my own country used to do it as well. I remember being in Tullamore one day when look, I think you need to just be very careful here, first of all, and particularly when you're looking at animals and all of that. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think if people are looking after the animals and you're not doing any harm or anything like that, I think it's okay. I think it would be worthwhile getting some organisations just to double check that this is all right. I suppose there's not a huge amount of difference. I mean, you see it every day walking down the street here. You see somebody with a bit of a chihuahua sticking out the side of the bag or out their backpack or something like that. I mean, what's different than that? Yeah. I suppose. But I would just maybe urge a small little bit of caution without being, real serious about it. Just double check that we're not doing any harm to animals or in these type of situations.
That doesn't look like there's any harm.
I don't think so. I mean, if you were to compare that, I mean, what's the difference between horse racing, for example, and something like that?
Yeah.
The horses obviously weren't built to be carrying guys on their back or anything like that. They may be built for it, but they certainly weren't originally designed for it.
No, they're not meant to do. Now, we're not advising letting horses out on the field.
But I'm just making the point, Wooly. I think we can enjoy some things like that, but just be careful. But incidentally, I do think, Wooly, that Laois County Board might have actually stopped that back then because they were just because of the concerns that they had, and I can understand that as well. Let's just be careful.
He was letting it out on the field during the match, which is a different thing. Boris Ali do it as a bit of a theatre before the game and the presentation of the cup. He's there, which is fine. But just launching it out in the field like a wild animal probably isn't.
I think, look, just be careful. There's a couple of organisations around that you can actually double check without going into the real animal rights things and all of these type of things. I mean, some of the stuff and that is a little bit too far the other way. Just be careful about these things, that you're not doing any harm or you're not frightening the animal or something like that. And if it's a bit of fun in that context, I think it brings a great bit of crack and a little bit of community spirit and that to the thing as well.
Yeah. So before Limerick played Kilkenny in the All-Ireland semi-final, they were All-Ireland champions. They were followed up with league champions, and they were Munster champions, destroying Tipperary in the final. Since then, they have lost the All-Ireland semi-final in controversial circumstances, really. They probably should have drawn that, as it turns out. Then Patrickswell, who won the county title, were hammered by Ballygunner. Then we have videos surfacing of players videoing each other. One was a fight in New York, and another one was Shane Dowling and Peter Casey, who's cleared his name since then. They have had to cancel their medal presentation. They've shut up shop. John Kiley, I don't know John Kiley well, but I would say he's a very, very, very pissed off man, considering the perception he wanted of Limerick. And maybe that's kind of gone a little bit now. Is that too harsh?
I know it is, Wooly, yeah. No, I think there's a couple of things here that I just urge caution here in these things. Mentioning Peter Casey when he's cleared his name, Wooly, is not on. And I'd say all media people should just stop that now. It either is or it isn't. And I think he cleared his name on it. Let's not mention it anymore, because we keep throwing off mud, eventually mud will stick to the wall.
And he was brilliant, incidentally, in the county final against Patrickswell. He scored 6 points for
and has been for a number of years, even moving straight through schools into Fitzgibbon and on the county teams. But the point I'm making is a little bit different than that. It's not performance, it's to do with a man's personal life and so on and so on. I think the other thing is the players in discipline. Look, it's a little bit surprising and maybe a little bit disappointing, but let's not always be sanctimonious here about it. It has happened in a huge amount of panels, except that most of it just doesn't hit the media like that. I would be very surprised if John doesn't handle that very well. And I think it will be handled well, and it'll be handled in-house and that there'll be details for the panel and for the management team themselves, and you're not going to hear about that. But I'll be surprised if it isn't handled well. And I'll just probably say that, look, if it wasn't, and if there was a sort of a residual impact on the panel here or something like that, look, that would hurt you in the following year. It's so difficult, obviously, to win All Irelands. And just take Limerick, they're a massive hurling county, and they didn't win one since that year was their first since 1973. It just tells you how hard and difficult it is to win. And you do need all things going right, but you've got to take it on the chin as well. You've got 40 young people in a panel or something like that. Nothing's going to be perfect here, and maybe it's a test of your character, or maybe it's a test of the Limerick panel's character and management's character, how to handle this and how to come out the other side. And I suspect they'll come out the other side the better for it. And I think I think what would be no more than any walk of life, Wooly, what's really helpful in this, if people stand up and be counted and put their hand up and say, look, I did wrong, it won't happen again. Of course, if it did happen again, now it's disciplinary at that stage and you've got to do something about it. So I just as a closing point on that, I suppose, look, there are high stakes here and everything really, and this is very, very high stakes stuff. And indiscipline in a panel, it can be hurtful.
The thing about the indiscipline, Cheddar, like Jesus Christ, they're over in New York and one of the lads got into a straightener with some lad. Like Christ Almighty, how many teams have we been involved in that? To me, that's not shocking.
Yeah.
The shocking thing is one of his teammates' video.
I know,
that was stupidity of the highest order.
It was a little bit foolish, but that may be me commenting on that because of the age I'm at.
Well, I'm a bit younger, and I think it's stupid too. But I'm not obsessed with video and things. I'm probably a little bit generation ahead of that as well.
I know it isn't Woody, but I can guarantee you walk down the street outside the studio here, and something happens. I can guarantee you'll have 15 or 20 people will video it on a mobile phone for you, and it'll be around the place.
Yeah.
I take her point. It is. Well, that's the point I'm making. I mean, not even going to mention players here. Assuming he went into the panel and apologised for his actions and that, and just closed it. Look, that's it. I was bloody silly. I done a stupid thing here, and I promise it won't happen again. But look, I suppose I'm just talking in general here. In a panel, you are always trying to enforce high standards. There is no difference in players' high standards in performance in terms of attaining the 1K run or the 1.2K run or whatever, or the yo-yo test or something like that, and what happens out in the street. In my view, you're always a county player, and you can just think for a minute what another county manager of note how would have handled that. So, but on the flip side of that, people make mistakes. Was it so harmful and so grievous that somebody got badly hurt? Now, actually, in this instance, that might have happened, but it didn't. And I just think that Limerick management will handle that and keep it, just close the shop on it. But it does need to be sorted within the panel, and there needs to be no sort of fallout from it.
I think in the era of mobile phones like that, the onus is on county players more than ever, like you said, to be county players on and off the field. Because if you make a slip up, you're going. You know what I mean? You're in trouble, and that's it.
I would always say that, Willie, and I would say that any teams I'm involved with.
Down through the years, that wasn't always the case, Cheddar. I think the current intercounty players now are more ambassadors for the county than they used to be.
Yeah, look, just think for a minute. You're representing first of all yourself. You're representing your family and the people around you. There are consequences here in terms of the way people see you and the way people regard you. And it is very, very difficult to lose that. And that's why I'm not going to mention the previous case, because I don't want to associate a name with it. But we cannot throw around things there if they didn't happen, because, you're nearly guilty by association. So there are responsibilities and accountabilities on county players now. And, we cannot just throw away and say, they need some bit of freedom and all of that. No more than managers, or no more than anybody involved in the GAA, no more than county board people or anything like that. We have responsibilities to ourselves, to our families, to our friends, to our clubs, to our county, and it doesn't need to break our back to uphold those standards and those responsibilities, because they are important in the dressing room.
Yeah, no, exactly. I wanted to ask you about Michael Duignan quickly. Will a non-administrator going in as county chairman? I'm very interested to see how this pans out. I hope it pans out well. I'm sure he'll shake it up a little bit. What's your thoughts on that, Cheddar?
Yeah, it's a huge change, and I'm absolutely amazed that media haven't picked up on this more, Willie, to be honest with you. I'm not so sure that I can remember such a sea change at county board level by people that may not have been seen. They may be all the people involved here are heavily involved at club level. It's not as if somebody has been floated in from outside the GAA and all that, but they haven't been involved at the county board level. And there's a complete sea change in Offaly County Board. And I'm absolutely amazed that media haven't picked up on this, that this county boards and what has been happening at county boards, where there's nearly musical chairs going on from year to year. That's the piece that really annoys me. And if you, I suppose I'm backing up county managers in that here. If you have criteria to be a county manager and you're interviewed based on those criteria, well, surely you require the same skill sets to do a job at county board level, and so on and so on. I fully accept his volunteerism. So are county managers, by the way. So
most of them.
Well, look, I'd say the majority of them, Wooly. I've said this on the show before. But this thing of musical chairs, you're moving around. You've about, after maybe 6 or 7 years, you've done 5 or 6 different positions.
Yeah.
Clearly, you want to be a fair man out of the skill sets to do all of them, is all I'll say. So this seems to have been a big change, and it's been a group change, I'd say, Wooly. And look, it might sow the seeds for more regular change at county board level.
Exactly.
And refreshing. But I'll say, Wooly, as well on that if a county board is functioning very well, no more than a county management team or any other management team, then there's no need to change things. If people are really doing a great job, I'm never a great fan of this thing, you need freshness and all of that. No, you don't need freshness. You need people to do the job better. If that's a new person coming in, great. So I do think, though, that musical chairs just hasn't served county boards well, and has given county boards a poor name, to be honest with you. People that serve on it. And bear in mind, all of these people are volunteers. You've got to give them great credit. I just think in the general round of things, this is a sea change. I think it might happen in an awful lot of other counties from here on in. And I think, Michael might have lit a fire on this.
He definitely might.
But Offaly probably
Best
did
of
need
luck
that,
to him.
Willie.
Yeah,
Offaly probably did need that. Their whole structure, and I suppose the crucial thing really is the belief in the genuine Offaly supporters, all Offaly supporters, not just genuine, all Offaly supporters, in that we're doing the right things here to make ourselves great again. And bear in mind, their success in the last 30 or 40 years in football and in hurling didn't seem to be of the right thing and the right magnitude to get them back up there again. And I think, it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of years whether Michael turns that around. And I'd only say success for Michael and Offaly would be putting the right structures in place at development level and at nursery level and all of those things to ensure that there's a sufficient volume of quality players available to Offaly senior teams again. That to me is success for Offaly.
Yeah, and come through with a few good underage teams like Wexford and get competitive
absolutely.
like Wexford and be back in that mix again, I suppose.
And that's a period. That's not going to happen over a year, Wooly.
No. Come here, just before we get into the matches, the Smart Slitter. What did you think of that one?
I'm surprised it's not in before, Wooly, and I don't know enough of the technical details on it to really offer a proper opinion on it. But if there's technology in this litter and there's technology on the goalpost and the sidelines, and look where technology has gone now. I'm just amazed that this hasn't been in before this. But if that's there to make good decisions based on things, and even
it's a lot cheaper than Hawkeye to run as well.
I would think so. I would think so. I would think so. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's coming out now for smart cities like Dublin, and some of the stuff that people are talking about now. It's phenomenal what's going to happen in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years. So I'm surprised that hasn't happened. So I think this was.
What about the colour? Some people.
I was just going to say that, Wooly. I was just going to say that. I think most of the focus was on the colour, rather than on the technology and the smart information that you can get out of this later. What will be really interesting is, though, even from a management's point of view, and from particularly stats people and all of that, will you be able to glean more information out of the flight of the ball and where it was and all of that, and ally that then to video technology and all of that? I'd be very, very enthusiastic about where that might go, and then when you're looking at an All-Ireland or you're looking at Leinster final and you have analysts producing stats on this that that just cannot be contradicted as such. I think that could be very
I'd imagine they should be able to track the speed of the ball then, right? For penalties and stuff, which I think is
that's what I'm talking about.
an extra element as well, which is nice. I have no problem with yellow. I made the point here, Cheddar, tennis balls are yellow. If you were to change tennis balls to white, how stupid would that look? Everyone's worried because it's different than what they're used to.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with the yellow.
No, I don't have a difficulty with golf balls and that same. I don't have a difficulty with the colour. I'm not so sure that you'll see it any better. I think people are saying, you'll see the yellow better. I don't think you would, to be honest with you. But look, I don't have a difficulty. But, I think whether it's whatever colour it is, once the players can see it, and, obviously they're the key people here. Other than that, I don't have a difficulty with colour. Yeah,
exactly. Right, we want to get into this one first, St. Thomas's versus Borrisoleigh, because this is closer in the betting. Ballyhale Shamrocks are very, very strong favourites to beat Slough-Nail. We'll talk about that. This is on Sunday at 4 p.m, on Sunday the 5th. Borrisoleigh really are the story of the club championship for me, because Ballyhale obviously win it. Thomas's are representing. Slough-Nail are often winning. They've won three of the last 4 Ulsters, so there's nothing new with the other 3. It's all about Borrisoleigh coming through Tipperary first for the first time since 88. I think they won the All-Ireland Club back then.
86, I think.
86. And then they were beaten well in the North Tipperary final, and then they come back, win the final, beat Ballygunner, in a great final, like a terrible day, but a proper club final. Do you know what I mean? And I think Johnny Kelly, their manager, like, you know, tactically that day, leaving the two big men inside and driving ball in on top of them, it was old school, but it bloody worked against Ballygunner.
Incidentally, I disagree with you, Willie. I think Slaughtneil are still the team here, and certainly if they were to perform against Shamrocks and win against Shamrocks, I think you would change your view on that. And we might come back and talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Bursley they're incredible. It's very interesting, actually, Willie. The 4 clubs are quite rural clubs, but there's certainly some common denominators in all of them. The nursery structure or the underage structure is very, very good in all, but actually they're all very rural clubs as well. Yeah,
they are actually, yeah.
And it's interesting that 3 of the clubs, and I'm not downgrading Derry Hurling here, but 3 of the clubs have come through probably the most competitive county championships that are going, you know, so, you know, it sort of speaks up that, you know, when you play at a very, very high level all through the summer, well, you just carry that performance through. Back to Bursley. Bursley are regarded in Tipperary as, you know, a serious hurling outfit, probably on a par with Sarsfields, even though Sarsfields by far more, and Toom, even though both of those have by far more county championships than Burris have, and it's actually Burris Ely as well. I need to check you on that. It's not Burris Ely.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue easier. Burris Ely, doesn't it?
I think they're actually two different areas, you know, within the parish there. But anyway. But even going back to, you know, 40s and 50s, they had the Kennys and that. I see a number of them on it already at the moment as well. And you know, looking through the 60s, you know, they had a Devaney on it, who was an iconic player, Liam Devaney, an iconic player in Tipperary hurling. And that, but in Tipperary,
but that's his son on it now, James Devaney.
James Devaney, yeah. In Tipperary, they're sort of regarded as royalty in hurling. That they always play a very, very good brand of hurling. You know, if you want to play the other way, they'll play that with you as well. And even though they may not have a huge amount of county championships, but they're regarded very, very highly in Tipperary, in a county that has 20 or 30 very, very strong clubs. So it's actually surprising that it's 33 years, I think, since they won the county. Now, I know they've won a couple of North Championships, which in itself is a savage, hard championship to win. You know, so they've had success maybe under the radar in Tipperary that, you know, people outside of the county mightn't see. And I think it's interesting that, you know, like a lot of the teams here, they have a good spine up the middle. They've, you know, Paddy Stapleton, Brendan Maher, Dan McCorkum in the middle of the field, 2 Kennys on the half forward. And actually, it's interesting that Conor Kenny was originally, I think, was a Selbridge player in Kildare, played county with Kildare. Now, obviously, the Kenny name and all his relations are Bursley legends as such. And you have some young players there, including the player you mentioned, James Devaney, who was a fantastic Tipperary minor in 2018. You know, who they're not going to be knocked easily off of this, and it's going to be a very, very, very close game. And you know, just think of their championship. They've come out of Tipperary, which is very, very difficult to win. And then they went down, to beat the Glen, you know, maybe the Glen Merton County champions, and sometimes it's just hard to get that, you know, that mojo right about
but
you.
They beat them the week after winning their first county title in a long time, so they did well.
Along with the cock and all. But their win against Ballygunner, I just said to myself, look, if Ballygunner are ever going to do it, you know, they're going to do it this year. And, you know, I know it was a tight game and they sort of snuck out in the end, but that's Burris Ely for you. They will grind and grind and grind. And you know, they'll hurl their way through the match, and eventually they pushed out. I think it was a pint or two in at the end, or maybe 1 pint in at the end. I think they scored the last pint. I think maybe Brendan Maher scored the last pint in that game. So they have, you know, they have history. They have the other thing that they have, that all of these teams have, is a huge community involvement. The club is the centre of the community, I'd probably say, in these 4 teams. And it's interesting, and you know, I think clubs should look at that. You know, it's interesting. These things don't just happen by chance.
That's something, and I talk about this on the show all the time, Cheddar. We're Portlaoise Club, which is a big town. We can never even understand what it's like to be in a small little club like that, and the whole community. Like the GAA community in Portlaoise would be small and it would be spread around. You know, you wouldn't have that central hub, and you just can't recreate what they have, can you? Like town teams.
I disagree with that, Willie. I just think that we don't do it. what community initiatives does our club do, or most big town clubs? I'm not being overly critical of Portlaoise Club here. You can look at a whole pile of clubs here. And I can certainly remember our club going back probably before your time when it was more community centred. I think that big town clubs, they just lose that sense of identity, and they don't try to actually get it back. And there's so many initiatives that you could do to make your club the centre of a town or a community. I think size makes no difference to it, to be honest with you. And I think if you have success, it should be much easier to do that, to get people behind you and all of that. We simply take our eye off the ball. That's the only reason that I can see, Willie, to be honest with you.
Right, okay. Yeah, but sometimes you would look a little bit enviously at the community spirit that the small clubs have. I do take around, I think Portlaoise losing its clubhouse and its bar probably doesn't help, where you would all go in after a match, and now there isn't that. But we won't bring an All-Ireland semi-final preview into talking about our own club, Cheddar. But that's it. So Borrisoleigh, like you mentioned, they have a brilliant spine, and then they have Kevin Maher and James Devaney, who are still in school. Brian Carroll teaches them in school, and you have Jerry Kelly. I don't know what you think of Jerry Kelly. I'm a huge fan of his. He's only a year older than those two fellas who are in school, but he's a huge kind of big fella who's a battling kind of.
You can use him as a target man and work the players off him and that.
So they're a team I like, Borrisoleigh. Like, I don't know what it is about St. Thomas's. They've come back from being destroyed with Ballyhale Shamrocks to win a tough championship.
Yes,
it's just that hammering by Ballyhale Shamrocks last year. I don't know. I don't know how they came back number one. Yeah. I don't know, is that just such an off day that day, Cheddar, that they're nowhere near, as poor as that? I don't think they are. I mean, they've won an All-Ireland club, but at the same time, I don't know, I'd be favouring towards Borrisoleigh, just the fact that unless Thomas's just want to get back at Ballyhale Shamrocks again, potentially.
I would think there has to be something like that in it, Willie. They certainly do themselves justice. They didn't do themselves justice in the All-Ireland last year, and I was very, very surprised at that. But I would say on the other side of that I think this Ballyhale team are going to be one of the most exceptional club sides of all time. And if they win another All-Ireland, they're going to be one of them anyway. Yeah. And, to be an exceptional Ballyhale team in Ballyhale itself is some record, considering some of the teams that they've had in the past. But they definitely played probably to their top momentum that day in the All-Ireland. Everything worked really well for them. I saw them in the semi-final
against
Ballygunner as well, and they didn't play as well. And even when you look at we'll talk about Ballyhale maybe a little bit more in a minute, because I do want to come back and talk about Thomas. But if you look at Ballyhale, they won a Kilkenny semi-final by 9, a Kilkenny county final by 9, hammered Martins, beat Clonkill by 9, beat Mullins by 9. They're fairly consistent winnings, and they probably still have a little bit left in the tank against that performance against Thomas's. That was an exceptional performance against Thomas. All that was good in hurling, about how to move the ball and find space and all of that.
And they hammered Ballyboden the year before as well in the Leinster. Was it that Leinster final? They're hammering everybody.
No,
really.
They may very well be an exceptional team. We'll talk about it in a minute. But just back to Thomas's. Thomas are driven really by, I suppose, families really. You're talking about Burkes and Coonies. There may very well be. And incidentally, I think there's a really good part. I think Fintan Burke, who got injured that day against Ballyhale, and it was a cruciate injury he had. That had to go off the field that day. I think he certainly came back into the county final there.
He got 2 points. He won it for
them.
He did.
That's right. He did. That's correct. Yeah. But I think that closeness and that, they've some serious players themselves. James Regan was a Galway senior, David Burke's a Galway senior, Conor Cooney, and just all of the Burkes just playing together. And I think Fintan Burke may very well make the Galway team this year. If he just keeps fit, gets fitness right, and doesn't get injured in that again. So I think what will drive them is clearly, Shamrocks are in the other semi-final. What clearly will drive them is they will love to get back there again and just do themselves justice there. I'd probably lean a little bit towards Thomas's, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be very, very close.
They're two slight favourites. Thomas's are 5-6, Borrisoleigh are 6-5.
And I suppose they've been at this level for a while. But don't underestimate the importance of Brendan Maher. He's won an All-Ireland, he's now won a Tip, he's won a Munster. He's an exceptional leader within a team. and probably an exceptional leader for Tipperary, as he's proved this year as well. And he's not a flamboyant player, even though he's technically a brilliant hurler. And I think his ability just to grab the team and push it over the line. And they have, you have the likes of Dan McCormick, some of those as well, but they'll put in a massive shift. There's no doubt about that. And they have that history in Tipperary. It's really strange that there's not that many Tipperary teams that have won All Irelands. Kilruane, I could probably name them on one hand that have won it. And even the likes of Sarsfields and those haven't really
flattered to deceive, really, didn't they?
Considering the quality that they had in their team and that didn't deliver the results that you would have expected, the quality that they had. Borsley are conscious of that, and they will want to represent their own club, obviously, to start with, but equally for their county well. But I just think that Thomas is. I just think they'll have a little bit too much for them, and I think maybe they might have a little bit of strength and depth that Borris may not have.
Okay, I'll go for Borrisley just to disagree with you, or maybe you're going for Thomas's just to disagree with me, Cheddar. I'm not sure which. I'm not sure which word it is. Ballyhale Shamrocks then against Slough-Nail. This is 1-33. Slough-Nail are 10-1 outsiders. They spoke after manager Michael McShane spoke after the Ulster final. It was Dunloy they beat, and the talk was that Dunloy were a better hurling team, and that the Slough-Nail had beaten them 2 years ago by bullying them off the field and all this kind of talk. And Slough-Nail used this to their advantage. And actually, their winning manager Michael McShane said after the match, the drive that we got this week from people talking about how we weren't a good enough hurling team, that we were going to have to come out and bully Dunloy, physically intimidate them and do all those things, but we wouldn't be able to out hurl them. And you saw who the best hurling team out there today was. So he wasn't letting any of that go. And Slough-Nail are guilty of being the football team that plays hurling. And there's no bigger insult to a hurling man, is there, Cheddar, than to be a football man playing hurling?
That's true. And I think that needs to be put to bed, Wooly. First of all, good teams win big matches. And, I think you are right. For that club, they're an exceptional club. There's been enough media articles. I don't need to talk them up here. There's been enough media articles written on them about their club, about their unity, about their community, all those things that matters to them, about their team spirit, and I suppose hugely about their nursery program that they've put in place. And bear in mind, they're a dual club. We know how difficult that is, and a lot of these, you have the likes of Christian McCaig and some of those, they're dual players who are giving it everything. We'll just talk. I think they've been in maybe 2 or 3 All Irelands. I know Coola beat him. I'm pretty sure Napiersic beat him as well. I know. Look, they were 2 exceptional club teams.
They're not getting good All Ireland semi-final draws,
no,
are they?
They've been unfortunate.
Cushendall nearly beat Thomas's last year in Parnell Park.
Yes,
so you'd actually
correct.
give Slough-Nail a fighting chance against the other 2. But let's be honest, against Ballyhale Shamrocks, who just blow teams away.
Yes, but. And I'm going to talk a little bit against myself here, I suppose. For once, Slough-Nail's conditioning that they will have got from playing at such a high level, I think they've 9 in a row hurling championships won at this stage. Not necessarily that Willie. I think their Camogues have won 7 or 8, and maybe 2 or 3 All Irelands in that as well. This is an incredible club. Yeah. But they've also won. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wooly, because this is that other code that Judo talk about there. I think they've won maybe 4 or 5 Derry senior football championships, and that's not easy.
They won 3 Ulsters.
And won 3 Ulsters. So I'm just going back. There's a lot of dual players here. There's some dual players here, certainly where the conditioning level would be very, very high. But I think if they look at Ballyhale Shamrocks and if they take them on and stay with them, that this game's going to be close and that they close down the space and don't allow Shamrocks to sort of ping the ball around, and then get into their stride, and they're very, very difficult to stop. If you give them that space and that ability to move into space and take the ball to hand, and that they're technically very, very gifted players. I think if Slough-Nail stay close to that and close that down, because in the Leinster final, St. Mullins did that, and they probably closed down the middle third. It made it difficult for Shamrocks for a good part of that game. And actually, Mullins missed a goal, and the ball went up the field, and Shamrocks got a goal. It was a turnaround of 6 points nearly, you could say. So I think if the game turns out like that, I think Slough-Nail, they'll be certainly close to it. But I'd have to say that if Ballyhale open it up, and if they allow them the space, they're just technically gifted players. I think there's going to be 10 Ballyhale players on the Kilkenny panel this year. there may very well be 7 of them on the team, and there probably will be 4 of them in the Kilkenny forward line. And this is a county that has played in an All-Ireland only a couple of months back, Wooly.
So who breaks in then? Owen Cody?
Well, Owen Cody, I think could very well. Now the competition, of course, is going to be savage here, and the competition is savage in Kilkenny. But look, he has that ability. At the minute, you have Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid, and Colin Fennelly already there. Owen Cody will there. I know Richie Reid is away. Or was away there recently. He could very well break into a Kilkenny team at wing back. I'll be very surprised if Darren Mullen is not corner back and that Joey Holden, he might actually replace Joey Holden, and maybe Joey Holden will stay there.
Right.
And you're talking about 6-7 players in a county like Kilkenny.
Is Darren a brother of Adrian's?
He is, yes. Right. Yeah. And you know, so and you have a number of other players there. You likes of Evan Shefflin.
Evan Shefflin did well on James Doyle, I thought, in the final. In the air, he did well.
Yes, he did.
Him,
yeah. No, he is. I mean, these are very, very, and these are all very, very young players. You know, what was amazing was in the Kilkenny under-21 final. Just before Christmas, All Auckland's beat him, and they sort of beat him, you know, in the way I'm talking about, that they sort of, you know, played hip to hip, you know, won a lot of the contests and beat him well in the end. I can't remember the score now, but I think we won maybe 7 or 8 points. Right. And Shamrocks were going for 3 in a row in the under-21s. Now look, maybe a lot of the players, you know, you would have had likes of Owen Cody and Adrian Mullen on that and Darren Mullen on that. You know, maybe they had their eye on Sunday's game and that. You know, which is fair enough. You can't just keep that level of real energy going the whole time.
So how did you manage TJ Reid? Because when I see him playing club, so you don't Larkin playing centre back, and he was kind of sweeping. Did you put someone else back then to mark TJ Reid?
No, we didn't really. TJ doesn't play 11, and look, TJ, you can't. You can't go in against Shamrocks with just one game plan because the quality of their team, you know, Henry can move his team around anyway, and he did that day as well. But generally speaking, when you see TJ playing, he seems to have a license to go and follow the ball and seek out weaknesses in your team, and they'll find them because they're technically very good players at finding players. And whereas, you know, you'll see some teams that are, you know, maybe you might call them maybe running teams or great athleticism about them, but that's not necessarily the way Ballyhale play. They're very good at pinging the pass to hand, but the player that's receiving it seems to be able to get into the space. But back to TJ, he rarely stays at 11. You could find him anywhere in the field, and of course you can't let him free. He isn't the best hurler in Ireland for 10 years for nothing. You can't just let him free, so you have to figure out something about how to close him down. But you're not going to let your centre back move out the field on him. So, you know, it might look like that your centre back's playing a sweeper, but he isn't really. It's just that he's just holding his position, really. Yeah, I suppose the thing that, you know, some of the things, if you were back again, you'd like to work things a little bit better, but you probably need to work more ball through that player if that player is being left free by somebody. But if that's the case, then, you know, so what are you going to do next? You're going to shove your 15 out in the 6 to close that down as well and put the threat further back to field and that. So I suppose so many quality players all over the field will, you know, you just cannot go out with, you know, say, look, shut this and shut this, I'll be okay, because, you know, they're obviously going to counter tactic that, or Henry's going to counter tactic that in some way, and, you know, you're left with another problem somewhere else.
2 quick things before we finish up. Any run-ins with Henry on the sideline in the county final or anything? No? Shut up, Plunkett. Keep your mouth shut.
I don't have any runs in with Henry, but yeah, stay very quiet, will he?
Did he impress you on the sideline? Would he have made a move or two to counteract anything you did?
No, he is. Actually, look, he's you know, he was a fantastic hurler, number one. Look, that doesn't mean you're going to be a fantastic manager, but he's managed the team to win in All Ireland. You know, I don't need to say anything else. In his first year or second year, I don't know if it was his first year or second year with him. First year with him. You know, he's a very, very, very astute man. He hurled and was a leader in that Kilkenny team and that, you know, so he's bringing, I suppose, a lot of experience at that level to management. Yes, they would, you know, they would have made some little changes that you know, you've got to react to as well, but he has the resources to do that, Willie, as well. I mean, I've named out a whole pile of
In fairness, though, when he took them over, they weren't fancied when he took them over first. Now, they had these young lads coming through which have transformed them, you know. Yes. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't remember thinking Ballyhale were in the talk at all, even for Kilkenny that time, were they? They were nearly going out, I think, early in his first year in the championship. I think they were going to be knocked out.
Yeah, and strangely enough, this year...
similar things.
Yeah, well, look, this year, this is different. Obviously, they've been... You know, and Thomas's were the same. I think Thomas's were beaten the first round of the Galway Championship. Clara, I think, I'm sure I'm right here now, beat Ballyhale in the first round. I know we beat him in the third round.
You beat them, yeah.
And I sort of kicked off our year a little bit as well. Now, you know, hands up on that one, Ballyhale were missing Joey, and they were missing Colin Fennelly the same day. But obviously, I think there's an interesting point there, Willie, that winning in under 21 is quite important, and maybe more important now, particularly with minors going back a year. I think winning under 20 or under 21 is probably more important now in terms of you pushing on with a senior performance in the following couple of years, because it's just much more closely related to a senior. So I think I won't say he was lucky, because you could have great under 21 teams and they just go off the boil or just don't perform, whatever the case may be. But I'd probably say that if Henry comes into the dressing room and he wants to play in a certain way, and he's been your club man and your all-star and your county player and all of that, you're probably likely to play the way he wants to play.
No, well, that's true.
And that, and look, he's got leaders in the team as well. One of the big things for him was Michael Fennelly coming back centre back, and that as well. You're talking about some players here that have won, I don't know how many All-Irelands Michael has, and Colin has, and TJ has. So they've been playing at a hugely high level for a number of years, and they'll be huge leaders to have in your team. And Michael coming back in centre back, then released Darren. I think he had played Darren at centre back prior to that. So Darren now is corner back. He's going to be our man marker. He's going to be the man that's going to carry ball out of the defence at great speed and that. And incidentally, they use Colin Fennelly very well up front as well. To sort of create space around him, or they might move him out to corner forward or wing forward, or sort of a halfway between wing and corner. So that, he's made good use of a lot of the players there as well. And of course that opens it up for TJ coming through the middle and that as well. You asked the question. Look, he's proved it. He's brought a very young team to win an All-Ireland and may very well go on and win another one.
Could win another one.
There's not too many clubs have done that.
Definitely not. So we'll go Ballyhill you're going Ballyhill Shamrocks and you're going St Thomas's. I'll go Ballyhill Shamrocks, Borrisalee, and we'll see what happens. We'll have you back in for the final. Cheddar, thanks very much. We'll be back on Monday with a review of all these matches, so we'll talk to you then. Good luck.